CorvetteBlogger. We're talking with Tadge Juechter, who is the executive Corvette engineer. Tadge, this has been a long time coming for you. How does it feel to finally get to be able to talk and show off the car?
Well, it feels great, of course. We've been spending the last 3 or 4 years shutting people down at every Corvette event, as you're well aware. The first question is always, what can you tell us about the C7? And the answer is always nothing. We can't tell you anything about future product. So it's nice to have that mantle lifted and being able to share a lot about the new car. And to be honest, we're not saying everything. We're holding a little bit back.
Okay, fantastic. Well, when the car was first conceived, what were your goals from a performance standpoint?
Every Corvette basically has the same goal. You got to surpass your previous best. So, you know, it's never been a good business strategy to come out with a Corvette that's slower than the previous generation. Then people have no reason to buy the new one. So we had additional constraints this time because there's enormous pressure on better fuel economy, CO2 regulations around the world, but also we can't forget we're a sports car and the car has to be fast. So we took that as a challenge, and we know our customers like good fuel economy as much as anybody. If we can get more performance and more fuel economy, why not? Everybody wins. So our challenge was what technologies could we use to try to enable that to happen. So you see the aluminum frame, you see the carbon fiber, you know, the racing aero techniques that help reduce drag and lift. Apply all those to the car, and then of course focus on the engine with cylinder deactivation and direct injection and variable valve timing, all the latest and greatest technology that you'd expect to see in a modern engine. You put that all together to try to break that paradigm of you either get good fuel economy or good performance, you get more of both.
You know, that's a whole lot of stuff to be able to put into one package. Were there some significant engineering challenges you faced, and if so, what were some of those things that you had to overcome?
Well, of course. I mean, every new Corvette has a huge number of engineering challenges. Coming up with a new aluminum frame that uses the state-of-the-art in materials manufacture and joining techniques, and then also being able to assemble it at Bowling Green was probably the biggest single piece of the car. It's basically, that's what creates a new architecture, is having that new subframe, making it way stiffer, so almost 60% stiffer than the current car. We knew we wanted to get somewhat better. Actually, we overachieved what we thought we'd be able to achieve, but still save 100 pounds out of the body structure. That's just an enormous enabler for the way the car drives. That's the most important thing. How does the car feel when it drives? And because it's so stiff, you can drive on even really rough roads and the car just plows over it totally unaffected. Stays responsive no matter what kind of road conditions you face. And then the steering system itself is 5 times stiffer than today's steering system, and that makes every action the car does be much more direct, much more linear with what you're doing with the steering wheel.
And then you combine that with a smaller steering wheel. You said 2 feet off the turning radius.
Yeah, we took 2 feet off the turning radius to make the car feel more maneuverable. We shrunk the steering wheel size down. It's getting closer and closer to the actual steering wheel in the race car. As that diameter goes down, the car feels more responsive, it feels smaller. And the seats play a big role in that too, having new from the ground up seats that really hug your body, really hug your contours, make you feel one with the machine. You don't have to worry about bracing yourself, supporting yourself. You're held carefully in place and you can just focus on driving.
Now, the available low-end torque on this car, I saw some of the charts, and it seems to be very similar to the LS7, especially that 1,000 to 4,000 RPM band. Was that kind of a goal as well, as maybe to match some of the characteristics of your performance car in the base C7?
It's been our history is to try to bring the up-level performance attributes down the Corvette model lineup, and with the new Stingray and the new engine, as you said, in the normal driving range between 1 and 4,000, we produce as much, in some cases more, torque than our 7-liter LS7. Although our goal on engines is more is better, so we don't stop when we achieve a goal. We always try to get as much as we can, and so as it turned out, between that RPM range, we almost overlay the LS7 torque curve, and you can really feel that on the car. It's amazing, especially in the automatic car, because you got so much torque just off idle. The car launches, gets out of the hole great, and 0 to 60 under 4 seconds, even for the automatic. That's a big upgrade.
Now, you obviously work very closely with Doug Feehan and the Corvette racing team. As you said, you know, we're working on the new C7. Did he have some things on his laundry list that he'd like for you to accomplish? As a cascade engineering is what his big thing that he likes to talk about.
Sure. We talked a lot about technology transfer between the race program and the street program. You can see it's totally evident on the surface of this car. We've applied directly the race car aerodynamic techniques to the street car. We've had to integrate them in a really seamless and beautiful way. But we're so close to our race team now, we don't need to ask them for a list. We know what they want. I mean, you've seen us at the racetrack, we've been in the pits, we watch what's going on, we know what works, what doesn't work, so it's at the point where we can complete each other's sentences, and we don't need to, okay, now it's time, this is the time in the program for you to send me the list. No, we already know.
Okay. And the new Corvette has some really cool technology on it. I'd like to highlight a couple of them. First of all, the active rev. Tell us how that kind of came about, and then, you know, how a driver will use active rev in the car.
That's one of the most transforming features. It really impacts the driving experience. We have a manual transmission now with 7 gears, so there's a lot of gears to choose from. Actually, there's 9 places you can have the shifter, right? 7 forward gears, 1 reverse, neutral. There's 9 places you can have the shifter. So we wanted to try to really embrace the manual transmission. Most manufacturers are starting to walk away from manuals, but for us, we still sell quite a few manuals, and we still feel, and a lot of our customers tell us, that is a lot of the driving experience. So we really focused on the manuals in a couple of ways. All the physicality of the clutch efforts and the shifter efforts. We put the gear state up in the cluster, so for the first time you can actually see as you move the shifter, you can watch the numbers jump around to see what gear you're going into. With so many gears, it's good to have that. But the rev match is by far the most transforming. Whether you're upshifting or downshifting, we actually put a sensor right in the shifter. Some people look to see in the transmission when you're actually in a gear. We put a 3-dimensional Hall effect sensor right on the shifter, and so it detects even very tiny movements of the shifter. So as you move towards a new gear, it can sense that, and the engine instantly jumps to a perfectly matched engine speed. You can change your mind in mid-shift and go back the other way, and the engine shifts to where it needs to be there. So yeah, it actually changes your driving style, because you can play the engine like a musical instrument with that knob now, watching it jump all over the place, and it just sounds great. It's so much fun, we elected to make it easy to turn on and turn off with paddles on the steering wheel. It's fun to show your friends, it's fun to see if you can match the system, and so we made it really easy to have it on or off, whatever your preference is.
That's a new driver mode selector. 5 different selections, 12 different configurable options.
Yeah, because cars are getting so complicated with all these different bells and whistles, things that you can control independently, you got buttons and switches, we want to really try to consolidate that into one switch, one master switch that sets the car up the way that we think would be best to work in 5 different conditions: weather, eco, tour, sport, and track are the modes. If you want to custom configure it, you can. So if you want loud exhaust but light steering, stiff ride, you can mix and match how you want. Depending on the vehicle is ordered, you can it controls up to 12 different things in the vehicle. And the way I like to describe it is the car transforms itself. It transforms the way it looks. So even the way the instrumentation is presented in the reconfigurable cluster will change. So on tour setting, you may see a more condensed tack, and it leaves more space for other vehicle information, like your album art for whatever song is playing shows up. It looks really cool. And then on sport, you'd see a more traditional tachometer and traditional instrumentation with extra gauges for stuff. And then when you put it in track mode, you get something that looks a lot like the C6R instrumentation. You get a tack that really emphasizes the high RPM band, and then you get key vehicle performance indicator, including lap times and other things that you would expect to see on a track. The whole way the car looks changes. So that's what you see. What you feel is, if you have MR, magnetic selective ride, you feel the suspension tighten down. You feel the steering stiffen up. You feel the transmission shift more aggressively. And then what you hear is the exhaust. So 3 of your 5 senses are affected by this single control. And like I said, if you want to mix and match all that stuff, you can do it to your heart's content through the menus in the center stack.
Right. You know, you hear about some people saying, just give me a car that drives, I don't care about the technology. Will this lend itself to the driving experience, or do you think sometimes it might distract from it?
Well, we're hoping it makes it very simple, that people will find it very simple to use. The control, we call braille. You don't have to look at it. You just reach down. If you want the car to behave more conservatively, you just turn it to the left. You want to loosen the reins up a little bit, you turn it to the right. So I think it just makes the car easier to drive.
Okay. Now, you're introducing this car with a 7-speed manual and a 6-speed automatic. And many of us thought that there would be an 8-speed in the works. We believe that Toledo is building an 8-speed. So can you tell us what might be going on with that?
I don't know what's happening in Toledo, but I saw the rumors about the 8-speed transmission. It was Aisin transmission, Japanese supplied transmission. That transmission does not fit in a Corvette, and there is no transmission that plugs and plays with the Corvette's huge amount of torque. We really couldn't find an 8-speed transmission, and to be honest, perfectly honest, the number of speeds is turning into sort of a marketing arms race with everybody wanting to outdo each other with more speeds. In 2005, when we introduced the C6, we actually introduced it with a 4-speed automatic. People will recall that. A year later, we brought out a 6-speed. And internally on the Corvette team, we struggled mightily to beat the 4-speed, the old 4-speed, for performance and fuel economy. Some cars need more speeds. If you have an engine that's real peaky, operates most optimally in a narrow range, you need a lot of speeds to keep it operating in that range. Corvette has a very broad torque band. You don't need to shift down 1, 2, 3, 4 gears. Most times you shift down 1 gear, you got more than enough torque to get done what you need to get done. And so sometimes more isn't always better. So we're very careful about that. We'll continue looking at whether more speeds is better, because more speeds typically means more mass, more cost, more everything else, more likely to go wrong maybe. There's a whole bunch of things that you really have to be careful of before just saying more is better.
And I saw that the automatic now does have launch control.
Sure, has launch control. We've done a lot with launch control over the years, as well as all the other electronic aids in the vehicle, and you'll see us just continuing to extend that kind of technology.
And do you expect to do any validation at any certain racetracks in Germany?
It's always on our checklist, and we've described it publicly many times. That's the last place we go. We still have a bunch of tuning to do on tracks in the U.S. as of the date of this filming. We still have to do our 24-hour validation. That's something we always do. We run a track and we run as you were in qualifying. Nobody else on the track, so you're running hard through tanks of fuel. The only time you stop is fuel, brake changes, and the like, routine maintenance. And we exercise the car like you were qualifying for 24 hours. So it's a very unusual situation because you've got pro-level drivers doing this. It's kind of an acid test, and once we completed that, we're ready to go to the ring.
And a few years back, the C4 ZR1 kind of held a record in terms of the average speed in the 24-hour test. Is that something that's still kind of in the back of your mind that you would like to reach for when you do these tests?
Well, that's very different than the 24 hours I'm talking about. I'm talking about 24 hours on a track where there's steering and braking. That was more of a continuous high speed, big circular track or big oval track. That's a very different kind of test.
Well, Tadge, we want to thank you for your time. On behalf of all Corvette enthusiasts, we appreciate all the work of the car, and it's we know that you would not have done a car that was back. It was going to be a step forward, and the patience that you showed to us to just wait for it. But we appreciate all your hard work, and we want to thank all the Corvette team on our behalf.
Thank you. We're doing all for the customers.